Hey guys, welcome back to the Ignite SAT Mastery course. Today we'll be looking at Lesson 2 of Module 2, the key to vocabulary. Now, as a quick refresher from last lesson, let's take a look at a couple of vocabulary-specific questions. Now, some identifying features of these vocabulary questions is the terms that they're being replaced in specific lines. For example, in questions 3 and 8, the words directly and form are being replaced in the specific instances in line 1 and 65 for question 3 and in lines 2 for question 8. Now, let's try tackling one of these questions. I want you guys to take a moment to read this passage and unpause the video when you have completed it. Alright, let's try answering one of these questions. Now, we're going to start with question 3. As used in line 1 and line 65, directly most nearly means, and then we have our options. Now, the first thing that I want you to do is either cross out mentally or physically the answer choices given. Now, this is because without looking at any of the answer choices which are meant to trick you into giving synonyms of the word directly, you're going to look for the context in and around lines 1 and 65 to help clarify the definition of that word directly. Now, let's start in line 1. Now, in line 1, we can read, Akira came directly, breaking all tradition. Was that it? Had he followed form? Had he asked his mother to speak to his father to approach a go-between? Would she have been more receptive? Now, notice I highlighted the word go-between. In this description, he is informalizing the go-between term as an explanation for why he came directly. It was a negation of a go-between that proposed him to go directly to breaking that tradition. Now, let's look at line 65. We have an understanding. Please don't judge my candidacy by the unseamlessness of this proposal. I ask directly because the use of a go-between takes much time. Look at that. We have the same phrase in both lines 1 and 65, and their surrounding sentences give the same context. And that context is because a go-between takes much time. Now, using these two, let's look at the answer choices. Which one most closely aligns without a go-between? And bingo, look at that. Without looking at any of the other options, choice C, without mediation, exactly lines up with what we have. And generally, when answering these vocabulary questions, you want to look for the context surrounding those vocabulary terms that justify the definition of that term. As you can see, frankly, confidently, and with precision, all could be synonyms of the word directly, but without mediation is the most appropriate term in the context of this passage and these specific lines. Now that you know how to answer one of these vocabulary questions, let's try doing this on our own. Pause the video and answer the question, and then we'll go over it together. Alright, now that you've answered the question, let's take a look at this question 8. Now, we're going to cross out all of the answer choices, and we're going to look at what word we're trying to replace. And then, in this case, the word is form used in line 2. So let's read that. Akira came directly, breaking all tradition. Was that it? Had he followed form? Had he asked his mother to speak to his father to approach a go-between? Would she have been more receptive? Now, this sounds familiar to exactly what we read in the last question, but this time, we're looking at that word form. Now, what comes out to us when we read this? What really catches our attention? What is he following form? If he had asked his mother to speak to his father, kind of a traditional look at what is going on. Now, let's look at the answer choices and what kind of goes on with the tradition of the mother speaking to the father. And as you can see, custom, or another synonym for tradition, exactly lines up with our intuition. So custom is going to be the answer. As you can see, the words appearance, structure, and nature all could be synonyms of form, but custom is the appropriate answer based on the context of that given segment. Alright, now we're going to look at some tips on how to master the vocabulary section of the reading test. Now, it's always important to either mentally or physically cross out the answer choices. Those answer choices are meant to trick you with literal definitions. Remember, the only definitions we need come from the context of the question. Remember to read the section that is highlighted. Not just that line, but all the lines around it will give context to what that word could mean. Then you're going to choose an appropriate word that follows with that context, a phrase, an idea. And finally, you're going to match that phrase to what actually is written as one of the answer choices. And this is a sure-proof way that you will always get the correct answer, because whatever context you have chosen will be some form of answer on the test. Now, next time, we're going to look at evidence-paired questions.